Thoughtful Connections, a memory care podcast, aims to provide general information and insights about dementia and related topics. The content shared is not intended to be medical advice or a substitute for professional medical or clinical guidance. The purpose or goal of this podcast series is to help inform and educate family members considering memory care for a loved one. With us, as always, is Elizabeth Thompson, Arrow Senior Living Regional Director of Memory Care.
Well, greetings, Elizabeth. How is your world today?
It is great. I'm happy to be here with you, Charlie.
Well, thank you. I'm glad you're here. You know, I see that we are going to discuss the Montessori Based Approach.
Yes, we are. Thanks, Charlie. I'm excited to be here and share about this.
You already told me you're excited. You must really be excited.
I'm very excited.
You know, when I heard about this topic, my thoughts immediately went to my niece, Monica. Now, she attended a Montessori school at a very young age. She was a very young child when she attended that Montessori school. So let's start with the basics. So what exactly is the Montessori approach, and how in the world does it apply to dementia care?
So, good question. It was originally started for children. It was developed for early childhood education by Dr. Maria Montessori. It emphasizes independence, choice, and respect for the individual. In dementia care, we adapt these principles to support our people, our friends living with dementia, by creating environments that promote autonomy, purpose, engagement. We want them to feel like they're a part of something.
Sure, absolutely. So is there specialized training for this Montessori method?
There is. I mean, really, anybody can practice the Montessori method. I did go to a class from the National Council of Certified Dementia Practitioners offers this course. Mm-hmm. I took the course, I guess it's been about 6 months now. Maybe not quite that long. But anyway, I took it so that I could train all of our memory care directors.
Okay. So have you had an opportunity to train them yet?
Not yet.
Okay,
not
so
yet.
That's on your agenda.
That's on my agenda.
For the coming years to train. So let me back up. How many memory care directors are currently under your tutelage?
That's a big word, tutelage. I like that.
I practice.
Okay. 33 today.
Today, 33, yes. And you're expecting more.
We're always growing, so yeah.
We certainly are. It seems like every week we're adding
I know.
a new community, aren't we?
What's next?
All right. So where did you go for this training, and how long was the training?
So the training is actually virtual, so I didn't have to go anywhere, but it is an intense 8 to 9 hours all day in front of the computer, live with instructors. Uh-huh. And so I didn't have to go anywhere. It was virtual, but it's pretty intense.
And I'm assuming there was a test afterwards?
Yes.
And how many times did you have to take the test before you passed it?
I always pass my tests.
Uh-huh. And did you receive some type of a diploma that you can show me?
I did, actually. It's a certificate.
Uh-huh.
But so once you take the class, then you can apply through the International Council of Dementia Practitioners to see if you qualify for the certification. You can take the class and not get certified. Uh-huh. But if you want the certification, you have to have so many years in dementia care and different things like that. There's different qualifications you have to meet.
Sure. And certainly if you're going to be teaching it, you certainly want to be certified.
Right.
Absolutely. Right. Okay. Well, I'm sorry I was picking on you about the testing.
That's okay. I'm used to it.
Well, I actually kind of thought of that question ahead of time, so I wouldn't forget. So let's get into the core principles when using the Montessori, again, specifically in dementia care.
Sure. Great questions. Some of the key principles include prepared environment. We want the environment to be warm, welcoming, safe, accessible. Because some people have walkers, some people have wheelchairs. We want it to be very safe and accessible for them, but also stimulating. Another key principle is meaningful activities. when we think about meaningful activities, we need to think about what's important to that individual. Whether it be maybe they used to be a housekeeper, or maybe they used to be a stay-at-home mom. Maybe they would enjoy folding towels or sweeping or doing things like that, tailored to their interest and their abilities. A lot of times we focus on what they can't do, and Montessori we're focusing on what they can still do. Role and purpose. So that's where residents are given roles or engagement that is purposeful for them in the neighborhood. We want them to be able to contribute to the community. That doesn't go away when you have dementia. You still want to be helpful and needed and have purpose in life. And so it's important that we create jobs, for lack of better words. Maybe it's setting the tables. Maybe it's, watering the plants. Also cueing and memory support. We offer visual cues, labels on things to help them wayfind, and then also routine to help with their memory and support that independence level that's so important.
Sure. Of course, we've talked before how important routine
Yes.
is, especially in memory care.
Yes.
We've talked about that often. That comes up a lot.
Yes, it does. And Arrow is really good because we do have one of the key elements of our memory care neighborhoods is that we have a structured daily routine, because we know that people thrive, especially people living with dementia, thrive on routine. And it's important that we're setting them up for success.
Sure. So we've talked about the different principles. So can you now share some real life examples of how this approach has made a difference?
Absolutely. So I have several. One is a resident that used to be in one of my communities was a teacher, and she started leading the reading group, the reading circle, and that just empowered her. I had another gentleman who was a pastor, and he led all of our Bible studies. Just because they have dementia doesn't mean that they can't still do these things. I had another gentleman who loved gardening. So his job was to help take care of our courtyard and all of the vegetables that we were growing out there. And I've got this cute picture of him holding up this huge cucumber. He's holding it up above his head. It's really cute. But, I think when we talk about senior living, many times we think it's a catering to them experience. And maybe in independent living, it is. They're there to have like a resort style lifestyle.
Sure.
But for people living with dementia, it's important for them to feel at home. It's important for them to feel safe, but also feel a part of the community. So having them help and engage in these different things is huge. Just recently, I was in one of our newer communities that we've acquired, and they don't have a piano right now. Well, to me, in memory care, that's like a sin. Every memory care neighborhood should have a piano, right? Because music is so powerful. But she was a music teacher. So I was talking to her last week, and she said, I would really like a piano. And I said, well, we're going to get you a piano. And her eyes just lit up, and I said, where would you like your piano? And she showed me right where she wanted it, where she could face everybody so she could teach music. And I thought, she's going to be the neighborhood music teacher. So, yeah.
That's sweet. One thing that I think we need to keep in mind, and I think our listeners and watchers need to keep in mind as well, is that in our memory care neighborhoods, that the residents there are at multiple levels.
Yes.
Is that everyone is in a different place in their journey.
Correct.
Okay. And so as you're working with trying to assist individuals, not everyone is at that same place.
Right.
So a lot of times we talk in generalities, But really, when it comes down to it, when it comes down to you're actually working with the individual, right?
Yes, it's very person-centered care. And that's, you know, the best way to provide care for people living with dementia. If you've met one person with dementia, you've met one person with dementia.
I think I've heard that before.
Yeah, say it a lot. We're all different and unique, and what works for me may not work for you. And even as the disease progresses, you know, I had a lady that used to always love folding the napkins, and as her disease progressed, she wasn't able to fold the napkins, but she would sit there and pat them. I mean, to her, that she was being helpful. You know, was she actually doing anything to help me? No, but she felt like she was still doing something, and she would pat them, and then she'd move them to the side, and then she'd pat them and move them to the side.
That was her job.
That was her job.
That was her job.
Yeah.
And that was fulfilling her day, then so be it.
Yep.
Absolutely. So again, let's get back to the approach and implementing the Montessori approach. What does that take? What all is included in implementing the approach in a care community?
So I think that it starts with staff training, memory care director training. Arrow does a great job with our memory care neighborhoods already, but it's important to teach the caregivers and the directors to really observe the residents and learn about the residents. We've talked about our engagement profiles before, which you help us create for every single person living with us. That is such a powerful tool because we always want to try new things, right, with people who are living with dementia, but we also want to focus on what they're really good at, what they used to be good at. It may look differently, but it's important to still give them opportunities for that. You know, I think that we have to identify what strengths each individual person living with dementia has and create individualized activities that support them and help them feel successful. It also is about designing the spaces to make it, to support that independence and create that routine for them. One of the things that I love about Arrow is we have life stations, and over the years, our life stations are somewhat kind of changing some, and I think that they will continue to evolve. But some of those life stations are, the one that we have right now that is being utilized the most is our homemaker station. It has aprons, it has clothespins, it has flour sack towels, brooms, dustpan. That is something that resonates with a lot of our residents, and they go there, they can reminisce, and they can put those aprons on and start wiping down tables if they want to. So designing the space to also help that person engage. And it's a culture shift because, like I said, we're used to thinking, oh, this person lives in our neighborhood, we've got to do everything for them. And with dementia, that's the worst thing that we can do, because if they stop doing it, they'll never do it again.
It's important to maintain as much independence as possible.
Absolutely. And so, yeah, I think we do a great job with that. We can always be better. But the life stations are one thing that's very successful. We have music stations and pet stations and gardening stations, and we even have a wood workbench that is an actual workbench that you would probably love.
Yes,
to have
I've seen it. I've seen it. It has a vise on it. You've got measuring tapes and sanding blocks, and it's just I would like to have one of those. As a matter of fact, and yes, whenever you get rid of those, I'm sure let me know. I'd like to have one.
Okay, sure will.
Now, as you'd mentioned, you're talking about that it all starts with staff training and really learning and observing the residents. Sounds like a lot of detective work.
Yes.
Really paying attention, to what the residents like, what they don't like, what are their interests, and really building on that is what I heard you say.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
You hit it on the head.
So you're gonna be training the caregivers as well as your memory care directors to pay better attention, pay more attention, and document it, and so they're able to utilize that information in this Montessori method. Right?
Yeah. And it's amazing how when you have a resident that maybe is having a hard time acclimating to an environment, by giving them purpose in the neighborhood, they all of a sudden, it's just such a much smoother process.
So are there any common misconceptions or challenges that are associated with the Montessori method?
I think there are a lot of people that still associate, just kind of like you did, the Montessori approach with children. But really, it's about respecting that person, whatever age they are, where they are in life and on their journey. So, and respecting the capabilities that are remaining. We want to focus on what's remaining, not what's lost. It's a culture change, and you're changing from a task-based model to a person-centered one. But once I think teams do it, they see the benefit.
So have you ever considered or thought of or aware of any situations where this approach didn't work or wouldn't work?
I've not ever seen that. I mean, there's some dementias, that maybe they just have a flat affect and don't seem to engage at all. But even those types of residents still enjoy being a part of the big picture.
Good. Okay, good. So it appears, based on the information you've shared, that Montessori to be a perfect fit for Arrow's person-centered approach. That's something we've had all along, and this just reinforces it sounds like.
It does.
So what are your final thoughts would you like to leave with our listeners today?
I would like to say that the Montessori approach and Montessori-based dementia care is about dignity, purpose, and joy. It's not a method, it's a mindset. And I think that when we focus on what abilities are still remaining, we unlock that person's unique potential, and we transform care completely.
What they can do, not what they can't.
Right. What they can do, not what they can't.
Absolutely. Well, Elizabeth, thank you for schooling us on Montessori and its benefits.
Thanks for having me, Charlie.
And thank you all for sharing your time with us.
At Arrow Senior Living, we believe in the power of a chuckle, maintaining a childlike sense of wonder, and defending the dignity of others. Until next time, this is Charlie Johnson with Arrow's Thoughtful Connections, a memory care podcast, wishing you fond memories filled with moments of joy. And remember, if you've met one person with dementia, you've met one person with dementia.
You can find Thoughtful Connections, a memory care podcast, anywhere you listen to podcasts.